Assalamualaikum and hello. My name is Muhammad Denimur Azman. I'm leader of this group. Now I will be making a little bit introduction about system project. We are from AM 225 to a Bachelor of Corporate Administration, Semester 2, Class A. Okay. Our team members consist of five. The first one is Nur Afiqah binti Muhammad Suri, Syaratu Amirah binti Shahimin, Siti Hazimah binti Bahudin, me, Muhammad Daniel bin Azman, and the last one, Muhammad Haris Nazmi bin Muhammad Helmi. Our project title is Aeon Mall Shah Alam Employees Payroll System. Okay. We will calculate the salary of 100 employees, consists of five departments. Okay, you can see here, consists of five departments and two levels, executive and non-executive. 100 employees. Calculate the salary of these 100 employees. Okay, different position, five department, two level. This is the our project. We will calculate the salary, and more details will be explained by our members. Project significance. What's the benefit of this project, especially towards the Aeon Mall Shah Alam? Okay. The first one, to ensure transparent and effective payroll system for the company. Okay. With this system, the company can get a transparent and effective payroll system. Okay. System is it's like a one-stop center. Okay. All of the function is in one system. Okay. They can calculate. We have employees data, OT data. Okay. We can calculate quick detail. Okay. OT summary. We can generate paid leave. We can see FAQ. Okay. We can see analysis. Okay. So you can get a more transparent and effective per system with this system. Okay. Second, to prepare a detailed salary record of the employees in the company. Okay, with this system, we calculate many, okay, more detail. Okay, we have basic pay, we have transportation allowance, okay, we have gross pay, we have calculate allowance, gross pay, EPF, social, EIS, and net pay. Okay, it's more detailed. With this system, in more detail. Okay, it will benefit to the employer more share. Okay. Third, able to save time in calculating salary of the employees. Okay, with this system, they only need to key in the data, and the data here is already we already put the formula. Yang Masya Alam, especially HR department, only need to key in data, and the data will itself generate the payslip, auto summary, and quick details. Okay, so there will be they can save time. Okay, no need to calculate manual. Okay. What? Able to reduce error in salary calculation. Okay, that I said before. Okay. In this system, we already put the formula. Okay. So they need to key in data and the system will calculate itself. So it will reduce error. Okay. Different from the manual calculation using calculator. Sometimes we will not put some number and there will be error in the calculation. So with the system, it will be it will be a less error because we already put the formula. Okay. Five, to ensure the employee receive the salary on time. Okay, this system. Okay, the HR department didn't need to take a long time to calculate their salary. So they only need to key in and they uh, and the data will generate the payslip. So the HR department can give the salary to the employees on time with this system. Okay, that is the benefit of this project toward Aeon Mashallah employees payroll system. Okay, and Mashallah company. Okay, that's all from me. Okay, the further explanation about this system will further explain by my members. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening everyone. My name is Hazimah Yasmin binti Bahauddin and we will be presenting to you the system that we have created for this assessment, which is employees payroll system, and we choose Aeon Shah Alam to represent our data. Okay, as you can see here, these are all the data that we have included for this entire system, which consisted of employees data, overtime data, employees payslip, quick employee details, overtime summary, work hours analysis, pay analysis, employees birthday analysis, last but not least, the frequent asked questions. So, my part is I will be explaining to you how does this home button, home page works for this entire system. So, earlier, when we put the cursor onto the button, it shows you a conversation there. For example, go to overtime data. And then the conversation is called as hyperlink. And I will show you how we did that. That's why I purposely left this blank because I will show you how the magic happened. Firstly, we have to right click on your mouse, and then it shows these options. You click link, and then screen tip. You just have to type whatever you want to type. For example, go to employees data, and then click OK. And you choose here where do you want it linked to. For example, here employees data. We click OK. Let's see whether it works or not. Yes, it works perfectly fine. So next is, where does this link to when we click onto the button? Okay, for example, first we click onto the employee data. It directly links you to this employee's data. So this is where all the data shows. The next presenters will show you how does this system works using formula and whatnot. Okay, back. And most interesting part and what makes this system is user friendly is because it also have the home page button, back to home page. If you wrongly click onto the button that you didn't mean to click onto it, you can just simply click onto this home page button. It links you back to the home page. And then next is, what will happen if we click onto the icon and not the button? Does it work as well? Okay, let's see. Yes, it works perfectly fine simply by clicking onto the icon. Okay, this shows you the overtime data. Go back to home page, and I will test each of these buttons whether it works or not. Okay, and then employees payslip, or this is the payslip. Back to home page. Let's try on employees detail. So this is details. Back to home page. Overtime summary. Home. Work hours analysis. Home. Pay analysis. So there will be another person who will explain to you on the pivot table. Home. Birthday analysis. Home. Lastly, let's see. So I have shown you earlier all the buttons works perfectly fine. It directly links you to the sheets that you wanted to see the data to. Alright, so I think that is all from me. Thank you. Till then, Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hello. Back to me again. Okay, I will explain about Aeon Shah Alam employees data and Aeon Shah Alam OT data. As you can see here, this is Aeon Shah Alam employees data. This is the header. Okay, have employee ID, different ID, 100 employees, different ID, name, the name of the employees, age, the age, gender, IC number, date of birth, month of birth, department, position, levels, basic pay, the allowance, gross pay, EPF, SOCSO, EIS, and net pay. Okay? That we using the filter to make it easy to sort the data or see the data. Okay, okay. I will explain about what formula we use here. Okay, use formula at the allowance, gross pay, EPF, also EIS, and net pay. Okay, the first one, allowance. Okay, at the allowance column, we use if function. If function, as you can see here, above here, at the formula bar, use if levels. This is the level column. If the is executive, level is executive, as you can see here, this is non-executive. If the level is executive, if the answer is yes, so it they will be generate the zero value. Okay, if the answer is no, otherwise non-executive, they will get 150. They will generate 150 value, the value. Okay, uh, as you can see here, okay, the Aeon Shah Alam give the allowance for transportation only for non-executive employees. So the executive will not get the transportation allowance. So here we use if function to generate the data, make it more easy. Okay. Same goes to meal allowance. We use if function also. Okay. As you can see here, if level same level is executive. Okay. So if the level is executive, so they will get 250 the value. If not, otherwise non-executive, they will get 150. Okay. So Masha Alam give meal allowance to executive more than non-executive. So make it more easy, we use if function. So the gross pay is the addition of basic pay and the allowance. So they will get gross pay. Deduction formula, F so yes, okay, there are some percentage. Okay, yes, also yes is a percentage from the gross pay, multiply from the gross pay. Okay, for EPF, we will multiply 9% from the gross pay. There will get yes. So 0.5%, EIS 0.2%. Okay, for the net pay is gross pay minus all of the deduction here. So they will get net pay. Yes, as you can see here, okay, it will be more easy for the HR department, especially to calculate the salary. Just put in the data and the system will calculate itself because it has formula in it. Okay, so it will save time, reduce error. Okay, don't need to calculate manual. Okay, okay, that's all for okay. Not that's all. Okay, this year we can see IC number, gender, okay, birth, can, okay, department and position. Okay, we have 5 department, 2 levels. Okay, it's more detailed. Data get you more detailed data of the employees. So employees can get better know the what the employees background. Okay, multiple background. Okay, OT data. Okay, we go to OT data next. Okay, actually here, same table. Header is date. This is date. We have 6 months. Calculate overtime. Okay, overtime of not 100. We calculate only for non-executive. Okay, the non-executive only can get the overtime. So this is for non-executive. Okay, we calculate from January for and until June. Okay, this is month. Okay, this is employee ID, and this is employee name, position, time in. Okay, time start working, time up, time they end their working hours, total of their working hours in a day, extra hours, how many extra hours that they get from a day, what the hourly rate. Okay, I will get headings here. This is date, okay, data, employee data here. This is the one that do the overtime. Okay, this is the position, the time in, time out, total hours. Okay, I will explain the formula that we use in here. Okay, for total hours, we will minus time in and time out, minus these two, divided by 24 hours, minus by 1. Okay, minus by 1, you will get the total hours, how many hours they work. For this, okay, Abdul Rashid, time in 9 a.m. They start working 9 a.m. and he end the working hours at 7:30 p.m. So the total hours is he worked for 9.5 9.5 hours. Okay, so the extra hours will be uh, this total hours minus by 8. 8 hours is the normal time of working hours. So the total hours minus by normal time, we get the extra hours. Okay, so that is the extra hours. And this OTL rate, we have five or four rate different for the position, different rate. See here, there is many overtime data. Okay, HR department only need to put data, and it will be okay. It will calculate itself, so it's more easy. Okay, that's all from me. Ilmu Shah Alam for the expansion of Ilmu Shah Alam employees data and overtime data. This is all the data, and what we can do with data we will further explain by our members in the next section. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Afika binti Muhammad Suri, and I will be presenting about quick employee details and overtime summary. Without further ado, let us proceed to quick employee detail first. As you can see right now, this is Aeon Mall Shah Alam quick employee details. First and foremost, instead of manually we find the employee detail in employee data, which is at here, it will be consume too much time. But with this sheet, the user can easily access the employee detail informations. We use the data validations and we look up functions in these sheets. Here, how it works. If the user select the cell to insert employee IDs, the input message will appear and tell the user what to enter. Right now, as you can see, the data validation here will make it easier to find the employee's details from all employees' data by using the employee's ID only. Let's give a try. We will insert correct employee's ID. For example, then it will change accordingly. What about this one? Also, it will change accordingly. As you can see, when you insert different employee ID, a different employee detail information will pop up according to each respective employee ID. It will show the employee details such as name, age, gender, position, department level, which is the basic detail information that we need to know about the employee. Everything will be everything will be appear here as we use the VLOOKUP functions. We look up the data from employee data. That's why it will show at here. What about if the user ignore the input message and enter the invalid employee IDs? Let's give a try. I will show to you. Yes, then the error alert will pop up. Okay, we will try again. Yes, the error alert will pop up. It will show an error message which is the employee ID is not in the system. As you can see at here, nothing will be appeared about this employee ID since it's not correct and not valid. These sections use data validation functions to allow specific entries inside on the worksheet. Okay, we will try it again. Yes, it still won't show anything. Okay, last but not least, we will try to put the correct employee ID. Then it will change accordingly. This will show that this system is well functions. Last but not least, at this sheet we also provide home button for the user to easily go to home page and choose another menu. Next, I will proceed to our time summary. This is our time summary. It allows the user, which is the employees, to know about their total overtime that they have performed in every month. Same with previous sheet, we also use data validations and we look up function at here. Data validations can prevent data entries by an organization to certain cell as it will notify user to enter valid data when the cell is selected and display an error code when the user enter invalid data. Let's give a try. We will insert correct employee ID first. For example, then it will change accordingly. What about this one? And also we change accordingly. When user insert different employee ID, a different employee over time will show according to each respective employee ID. It automatically display all the informations regarding the employee informations, employee data informations, and regarding overtime that have been performed by the employee, such as the date the employee performed the OT, time in, time out, total hour, extra hour, and total overtime. As we use the VLOOKUP functions to link with our time data. What if the user ignore the input message, and what happen if the user ignore the input message and enter the employee ID which is not valid? For example, then the error alert will shows. It will shows an error message which is the employee ID is not in the system. As you can see at here, nothing will be appeared according to this employee ID as the employee ID is not correct or not invalid. These sections use data validation to allow specific entries inside on a worksheet. Furthermore, the user also can click at here to check their overtime for every month. For example, if this employee want to check his overtime in January, then it will change according to for the month of January, March, February, April, and June. As you can see, it will change accordingly to the what employees choose. We use data validations that give the user an options to select from a predefined list. Last but not least, at this sheet also, we also provide a home button for the user to easily go to home page. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syadatul Amirah binti Shahaimin. So today I am going to present about employee payslip and company FAQ. So in the employee payslip, we use data validation and VLOOKUP. So data validation restrict entries to a specific type. For example, here you need to insert your correct employee ID, otherwise an input message will appear as you have entered invalid data. Okay, I will show you what happens if you enter the invalid data. So this is what happens if you have entered the invalid data. So I will show you what happens if you have entered your correct employee ID. Okay, so this data validation will come out with the employee's information based on what has been set up in the employee's data. In my right side is a print button. Employees can click on this print button if they want to print their employee's payslip. Okay, so this is what happens. Next, I will briefly explain to you about the VLOOKUP. With the use of VLOOKUP formula, we can retrieve the data from the employee's data into the payslip. For example, we use VLOOKUP formula in the position, department, name, IC number, levels, earnings table, deduction tables, and net salary. Now, I will briefly explain to you how it works. For example, we use VLOOKUP formula in the name section. So, we can see here, it's stated number 2, which means in the employee's data, column 2 represents the employee's name. Next, I will explain to you about the FAQ and the formula that we use. So, we look at the table on the left side first. The table on the left side gather the information from the employee's data, such as the basic pay, meal allowance, transportation allowance, gross pay, EPF, SOSO, EIS, and net pay. And here, it displays the total amount of items that I have just mentioned. So, we use some formula. You just have to select a range and auto sum for both rows and columns from the employee's data. Next, we take a look at the right side. The table on the right side gather the information from the OT data, such as total hours worked, extra hours worked, and OT hourly rate. And it displays the average, minimum, and maximum, and of items that I have just mentioned earlier. For example, the total hours worked says the average total hours in the total hours column in the OT data. The minimum total hours worked here states the smallest value in the total hours column in the OT data. And here, the maximum total hours state the largest value in the total hours in the column in OT data. That is all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Aris Nazmi, and I'll be presenting my part in this CSC408 video presentation for our group, Aeon More Employees Payroll System, and some of the contents of this project, which is pivot table, pivot chart, and also slices. And first and foremost, I'm not going to explain about this chart. I'm going to open our pivot table, which we hide the worksheet tab here, and I'm simply going to click unhide, and we're going to view our hidden data tool, which contains our pivot table. And from this hidden data tool worksheet tab, we have our first pivot table, which is the sum of gross pay and sum of net pay pivot table here, which is included in the pay analysis worksheet tab. And how did we acquire this data here? Is simply by we are going back to our employees data worksheet tab, and how did we create that pivot table over here is simply by dragging all of this data up from the top all the way to the bottom, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just simply going to show how to create this. Drag all of this data to the bottom, and we are going to click insert, and we are going to select pivot table and go to existing tab, and we are simply going to click OK. We're going to close this, and that is how we create our first pivot table. And as for this pivot table over here, some of the contents of this pivot table, which I'm going to show you here, is based on this pivot table field list. In this pivot table, employees data pivot table, we choose departments, levels, gross pay, also net pay. As you can see here, we have the positions. Why we did not choose to select position, because the information is too much and it just leads to complication, and the data will become too sophisticated and not too user friendly. And for the filters, we have levels, and the columns we have values, and for the rows we have departments, as you can see over here. And for the values concluded here, we have sum of gross pay and sum of net pay next to these row labels of departments. And that is for our first pivot table. And as for our second pivot table is for our birthday analysis pivot table. We took this data also from the employees data, which we drag all of this data over here from the top to the bottom. Go to insert and click pivot table, which is existing worksheet with which we have done it before. Select OK. I'm going to close this, and from that we have our pivot table with the analysis pivot table. But in order to do this pivot table, to differentiate it from this pivot table over here, which we gathered the data, we drag all of this data from the employees data employees data worksheet tab, simply by editing this in the pivot table field list, which we select gender, month of birth, levels, and that is it. And for the filters over here, we select levels and also gender. For the columns, we didn't care much about it, as it doesn't matter to us. And as for the rows, we have month of birth, as you can see over here, month of birth, and the values is count of month of birth, which all of these numbers represent how many people or how many employees have their birthdays in each of these months. As you can see here, for example, January has 9 people, and the list goes on and on. And that is it for our second pivot table. And our final pivot table is the work hour analysis pivot table, which this data were taken from our overtime data. The same as before, we drag all this data here from the top to the bottom. Simply click insert pivot table, and we go to existing worksheet, and we can choose the location, which is our worksheet tab in the hidden data worksheet tab, and we click OK. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to explain the contents of this pivot table here. I'm going to open the field list, pivot table field list, and we choose month, position, and extra hours. Simply to put it, this is a pivot table for overtime data. For the filters, use month, rows, positions, as you can see over here, which is executive or non-executive based on their positions, and there are some the position based on their departments, and there are some of extra hours, which over here this is only the non-executive positions, which you can clearly see cashier, clerk, and so on. And that is how we did all of our pivot table. I'm going to explain our pivot chart. Next is our pivot chart. And how did we create this pivot chart is simply by going to this, back to our pivot table, simply selecting this data over here and simply selecting all of this data over here. And we go to pivot table and we go to insert and we'll select this pivot chart here, and there you go, you have your pivot chart. And if we click OK, you clearly see our pivot chart over here, and we can move this pivot chart to any of the worksheet tab we want. I'm going to close this, and that is how we did our pivot chart over here. And you can see there is two bars. The red bars represent sum of gross pay and the purple bars represent sum of net pay. And this is sum of the net pay here, which you can clearly see 60,000, 54,000, and the list goes on. And this is the department, which is administration, customer service, and so on. And from this, if you want to simplify the data, you have the slicer over here, slice option. You simply select the administration. For example, if you want to view the administration department, you can clearly see it is simplified. And if you want to simplify it more, you can choose the executive and in the administration and non-executive. There you go, you have it simplified for you, administration, also non-executive, and that is for the slicer. And how did we create this slicer? And this is all for our worksheet, all for these three worksheet tabs, which is pay analysis, work hours analysis, and auto birthday analysis. Is simply by selecting this pivot table chart, selecting we click on the insert tab and go to the slicer option here, and we can select any option we want from here. For example, we want to include gross pay. To simplify the gross pay, we can simply select gross pay, and there you go. I'm going to close this, and that is how we create our slices. Next is our work hours analysis. How do we create this? Is the same. We go to the pivot table here. We go to this pivot table over here. Before we select this, click on the insert tab and select pivot chart, and there you go. You have our pivot table over here. Close this. And for work hour analysis, these tabs here represent this bar here, red bars here, represent the total sum of extra hours based on their position. All of this here is non-executive, as overtime can only be aggregated, can only be acquired by non-executive position. If you want to simplify it more, you can select January. You can see here the number, sum of hours and their position. Same goes to February, March, April, May, based on this user-friendly slicer button that we provided over here. And as for the birthday analysis, this bar right here, each bar represents how many of the employees have birthdays in each of this month. In the 12th month provided here, this is the number of employees, and this is the month, vertically and horizontally. And these slices here that we provided is, if you want to simplify it by selecting executive, you select female and try selecting March. There you go, you have a simplified version of the executive levels, of the gender in the executive levels in the month of March, and how many of them have birthdays on that month, which you can clearly see it is 2. And that is all for our pivot table, pivot chart, and our slicer. But for the last thing, final thing is that for all of our pivot chart, the design we use here is the clustered columns. is the cluster columns. All of this, same goes for all of these charts, which is based on this. These are the clusters, administration clusters, and so on. And we choose to use the design of cluster columns. And that is all from me. Thank you very much.